you ever speak to Chris Rock after the slap? Because he's your mate.
Yeah.
I would have been straight on the phone if it was my mate getting slapped.
No, but
going,
I was in a sticky situation because I was actually, an elected official of the union at the time.
Oh.
Will Smith is a twat.
Oh, I liked him.
Will Smith has been hiding the fact of who he really is, and it was exposed that night. He's really he's a deep, dark thing. To do that in front of all those people and to a really great, legendary comedian who's literally the best comedian of our generation.
Sure.
You wouldn't have like this whole wave of comedy that came after if it wasn't for Chris Rock. He's kicked open the doors. So for him to do that, but I wasn't allowed to say anything at that time because we were part of the committee.
A war of words has erupted between Will Smith and Rob Schneider, sparked by Schneider's shocking declaration, calling Will a twat. This wasn't just a casual insult thrown out in the heat of the moment. Schneider launched a full-scale attack on Smith's character, accusing him of being a fraud and not the genuine person he portrays himself to be. He piled on the criticism, delivering blow after blow, leaving Smith understandably furious. However, despite the harshness of Schneider's words, a surprising number of people are siding with him, suggesting that his accusations, while brutal, might actually hold some weight. They believe Schneider's rant exposed a carefully crafted facade, revealing a less than authentic side to the beloved actor. This public spat between two comedy giants has left everyone wondering what exactly prompted Schneider's vicious takedown of Will Smith, and is there any truth to his explosive claims? Rob Schneider's sudden and harsh criticism of Will Smith has many people wondering what his real motivation is. It seems likely that Schneider, like a lot of other comedians, is still really angry about the infamous Oscars slap. He probably feels a strong connection with Chris Rock and sees what Smith did as something totally unacceptable, a huge overreaction that embarrassed everyone in the entertainment business. The Oscars slap, which everyone remembers, happened when Chris Rock was presenting an award and made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's hair. At first, it looked like Will Smith laughed, but then he suddenly walked onto the stage and slapped Rock in the face. Everyone in the audience and watching at home was completely shocked. The slap was loud, and the room went silent afterward. Smith went back to his seat and yelled at Rock, telling him to never talk about his wife again. The whole thing instantly became a huge deal all over the world. People argued about whether Rock's joke was okay, whether Smith had the right to react the way he did, and what it all meant for comedians and celebrities. For comedians like Schneider, who often make jokes that push boundaries, what Smith did probably felt like a personal attack. They worry that it sets a bad example and could lead to people getting violent with comedians for telling jokes they don't like. It's this anger and worry, still simmering after the slap, that probably led to Schneider's outburst against Smith. He's likely using this opportunity to express his disapproval and frustration with Smith's actions, seeing it as a betrayal of the comedy community. 2 years after the infamous Oscars slap, the reverberations continue to be felt throughout the entertainment industry. Comedian Rob Schneider, a close friend of Chris Rock, recently offered his perspective on the incident and its aftermath during an appearance on The Kyle and Jackie O Show. When asked if he had spoken to Rock following the altercation with Will Smith, Schneider revealed that Rock had retreated into silence, understandably unwilling to engage with the media frenzy surrounding the event. He didn't want to talk to anybody, Schneider explained, expressing empathy for his friend's need for privacy and time to process the traumatic experience. "I don't blame him," he added, acknowledging the immense pressure and scrutiny Rock faced in the wake of the very public assault. Schneider's comments shed light on the profound impact the incident had on Rock, suggesting it was far more than just a fleeting moment of embarrassment or anger. He described Rock as a very sensitive, great guy, highlighting a side of the comedian often obscured by his public persona. Schneider went further, praising Rock's comedic genius, emphasizing his talent and sensitivity, qualities that made the public humiliation all the more painful. The fact that Rock chose to remain silent speaks volumes about the depth of his emotional response. Being thrust into the center of such a global controversy, becoming the subject of endless debates and social media commentary, undoubtedly took a toll. Schneider's insights offer a glimpse into the private struggles Rock faced as he grappled with the aftermath of the slap, emphasizing the need for empathy and understanding. It also underscores the lasting impact of Smith's actions, not only on Rock personally, but on the comedy community as a whole. Rob Schneider finally broke his silence on the Will Smith Oscars slap, and he didn't hold back. In a recent interview, he unequivocally condemned Smith's actions, calling him an a-hole and accusing him of revealing his true self to the world. Schneider's strong language suggests a deep-seated disapproval that goes beyond simply disagreeing with Smith's Smith's behavior. He clearly believes that the slap was a revealing moment, exposing a darker side of Smith's personality that had previously been hidden from public view. Schneider explained that his initial reticence on the subject stemmed from his position as an elected official for SAG-AFTRA at the time of the incident. This role, he explained, placed him in a delicate position, requiring him to maintain a certain level of neutrality and avoid publicly criticizing a fellow union member. He described it as a sticky situation, suggesting that speaking out at the time could have had negative consequences for him within the organization. Now, however, free from the constraints of his former position, Schneider feels empowered to express his true feelings about the incident. This suggests that his condemnation of Smith isn't a recent development, but rather a long-held opinion he was previously obligated to suppress. His current outspokenness indicates a desire to set the record straight and hold Smith accountable for his actions, even 2 years after the fact. The intensity of his criticism underscores the lasting impact of the slap and the deep divisions it created within the entertainment community. Will Smith is a tit, Schneider said on The Kyle and Jackie O Show. Will Smith has been hiding the fact of who he really is, and it was exposed that night that he's really an a-hole. Schneider didn't stop at calling Smith an a-hole. He went further, branding him a liar and a complete, utter fraud. This accusation cuts to the core of Smith's public image, challenging the carefully cultivated persona of a charming, affable, and generally good-natured celebrity. Schneider's words suggest that he believes the Oscars slap wasn't an isolated incident, but rather a glimpse behind the mask, revealing a darker, more volatile personality lurking beneath the surface. He argues that the nice guy image Smith has presented to the world for decades is a carefully constructed facade, shattered by his impulsive and aggressive behavior at the awards ceremony. This accusation of fraudulence is particularly damaging, as it strikes at the heart of Smith's relatability and likability, qualities that have been essential to his success.
And how do you punish him?
Wow, wait. Just back up a second. Hang on.
I want to know
Will
what the punishment
Smith is like, for me, when I met him, right, I always say...
Like the nicest,
yes,
most wonderful. He's a
yeah.
liar. Complete, utter fraud.
Really?
It was exposed in that time.
Okay, we all thought in that time, he was under all this pressure, though. And
I
there was
didn't.
some-
I
it was a
thought-
I've been under
snapped
pressure.
moment.
Well, Kyle's been under pressure. You've been under pressure.
It's a deep, dark thing to do, that in front of all those people and to a really great legendary comedian who's literally the best comedian of our generation. You wouldn't have this whole wave of comedy that came after if it wasn't for Chris Rock. He's kicked open the doors. Adding another layer to his critique, Schneider revealed his involvement in the disciplinary process following the slap. He disclosed that he was part of the committee that's supposed to punish Smith, expressing his frustration with the length of time it took the group to determine the consequences for Smith's actions. This suggests that Schneider advocated for swift and decisive action against Smith, and that he was dissatisfied with the perceived leniency of the eventual punishment. Smith ultimately received a 10-year ban from attending the Academy Awards, a consequence that many considered a mere slap on the wrist given the severity of his actions. The fact that Smith went on to win the Best Actor award just 40 minutes after assaulting Rock further fueled public outrage and sparked intense debate about whether he should have been allowed to keep the prestigious honor. This sequence of events, the assault, the award, and the delayed and arguably inadequate punishment, likely solidified Schneider's negative opinion of Smith and contributed to his scathing public condemnation. His frustration with the disciplinary process, combined with his personal disapproval of Smith's behavior, likely motivated his decision to speak out so forcefully. Will is a douchebag, Schneider said. The thing is, that's how politically correct the Academy is, that they were so cowardly because if I would have done that, they would have been hauled off to prison. Schneider further contended that the Academy's hesitancy to take immediate action against Smith stemmed from a fear of appearing racist. He claimed the organization was so worried about being racist or whatever that they delayed and ultimately softened the consequences for Smith's actions. This accusation adds a complex layer to the already controversial incident, suggesting that the Academy's response was influenced by factors beyond simply addressing the assault itself. Schneider went on to emphasize that violence is unacceptable regardless of race or religion. The point is, violence is what it is, he proclaimed, and whether the color of your skin or your religion, it doesn't matter if you commit a crime in front of other people, you get hauled out of there. This statement underscores his belief that Smith should have faced immediate and significant repercussions for his actions, irrespective of his status as a black celebrity. Schneider's comments suggest that he believes the Academy's concerns about racial optics allowed Smith to avoid the full consequences of his actions, creating a double standard standard and undermining the message that violence is never acceptable. Schneider dismissed any justification for Smith's actions, arguing that regardless of his intentions to defend his wife, Rock's joke was mild and didn't warrant a physical attack. He emphasized that Rock was simply doing his job as a comedian and that Smith had no right to lay his hands on him. This reinforces Schneider's stance that violence is never the answer, even in situations where one feels personally offended or protective of a loved one. He underscores the importance of respecting boundaries and maintaining professional decorum, particularly in a public setting like the Oscars. By characterizing Rock's joke as mild, Schneider further diminishes the perceived provocation, highlighting the disproportionate nature of Smith's violent response. Adding a personal touch to his condemnation, Schneider revealed that he wasn't actually watching the Oscars ceremony live when the slap occurred. He was busy filming his movie Live is Love in Mexico at the time. However, the news quickly reached him, relayed by his crew who knew of his friendship with Rock. Schneider's immediate reaction was anger. This detail emphasizes the personal nature of his outrage. It wasn't just a detached observation of an industry scandal. It was a visceral reaction to an attack on a friend. The fact that his crew felt compelled to inform him immediately underscores the significance of the event and the close bond between Schneider and Rock. Learning about the assault secondhand, far from diminishing his anger, likely fueled it further, adding a sense of helplessness and frustration to his emotional response. I was in a car and my assistant director, she looked at me and she said, "Huh?" I said, "What happened?" And she said, "Chris Rock just got slapped by Will Smith." I said to get out of here. It didn't happen. I make the phone calls and it did happen. Schneider's account further emphasizes the lasting impact of the slap on Chris Rock. He revealed that it took Rock a considerable amount of time to process the traumatic experience, and that in the immediate aftermath, the comedian didn't want to talk to anybody. This suggests that the incident went far deeper than a simple onstage embarrassment. It inflicted a genuine emotional wound, leaving Rock shaken and needing time to heal privately. This reinforces the idea that Smith's actions were not just an assault on an individual, but a violation of the trust and respect that underpin the comedy community. Rock's silence speaks volumes about the depth of his pain and the difficulty of grappling with such a public and unexpected act of violence. Schneider's comments also reveal his own impulsive nature and protective instincts towards his friend. He admitted that if he had been present at the Oscars, he likely would have reacted instinctively, perhaps even retaliating physically against Smith. So, just trying to figure out the right way at the right timing. It was him because I would have said something, Schneider confessed. I'm an idiot. I would have tried to kick back. This candid admission portrays Schneider as fiercely loyal and quick to defend his friends, even if it means acting rashly. His self-deprecating humor, calling himself an idiot, suggests he recognizes the potential foolishness of such a reaction, but also underscores the depth of his anger and protective feelings towards Rock.
But didn't you also sort of think, oh, he's standing up for his missus? You didn't like that?
It doesn't matter. You can't hit another dude. If he's standing up for your missus, it's a joke. And like, I also thought it was a very mild joke, and it was and that
quite a slap though, right? Quite a slap.
It was so much. I literally was. I forget what it was because I wasn't watching it. I was in Mexico directing a film, and my
that sounds sus.
Yeah. But the thing was, I was in a car, and my assistant director, she looked at me and she said, she said, "What happened?" He said, Chris Rock just got slapped by Will Smith. And I said, "Get out of here. It didn't happen." I didn't make the phone calls, and it did happen. He didn't want to talk to anybody. I don't blame him.
Yeah, I get that.
But also, like, it took him a while to get to where he could react to it because it was a lot.
You got to process that stuff, right?
Yeah, and he's a very sensitive, great guy, and he's really literally a genius.
This contrast between Rock's measured silence and Schneider's admitted impulsiveness further highlights the different ways individuals process and respond to trauma and injustice. Schneider's comments touch on a larger societal issue, the importance of managing emotions and avoiding physical violence, especially in public settings. He paints a humorous, yet pointed picture of a world where impulsive reactions reign supreme, where offices resemble boxing gyms and family dinners require referees. He used the example of Donald Trump's response to being roasted by Barack Obama at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Trump, despite likely feeling humiliated, didn't resort to violence. Instead, he channeled his frustration into political action. This, Schneider implies, is how adults should handle disagreements, not with physical aggression, but with strategic and measured responses. Schneider argues that resorting to violence transforms a person from someone expressing frustration into the problem itself. He echoes the sentiments of Jim Carrey, who criticized Smith's actions and pointed out the double standard at play. Carey argued that an ordinary person would have faced immediate consequences, likely being removed by security or even arrested for behaving the way Smith did.
If anyone else had walked from the audience and done that, they would have been escorted out by security or maybe even arrested. The police asked Chris if he wanted to file charges. They asked Chris, do you want to file charges? And Chris apparently said no, he did not.
He doesn't want the hassle. If you want to yell from the audience and disapprove or show a disapproval or say something on Twitter or whatever, you do not have the right to walk up on stage and smack somebody in the face because they said words.
No, I agree. I think we all agree on that. I just thought, Jim, that it escalated to that. You know what I mean? That it escalated to that level.
It didn't escalate. It came out of nowhere because Will has something going on inside him that's frustrated, and I wish him the best. I really do. I don't have anything against Will Smith. He's done great things. But that was not a good moment. It cast a pall over everybody's shining moment last night. A lot of people worked really hard to get to that place.
This highlights the perceived privilege afforded to celebrities and the potential for their actions to set a dangerous precedent. Schneider's point is clear. Regardless of status or provocation, physical violence is unacceptable and undermines any legitimate grievance one might have. It's worth noting that much of the pressure surrounding Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith seems to stem from their very public approach to their unconventional marriage. While not a psychologist, it's clear that their open relationship, a topic they've discussed extensively in interviews and on Jada's show, Red Table Talk, has been a subject of public discussion and scrutiny. In 2021, Will Smith told GQ that they've given each other trust and freedom, suggesting a marriage structure that deviates from traditional norms. Jada has also spoken openly about this arrangement, making it a recurring theme on her show. However, this openness seems to have created a paradox. While they've chosen to share their personal lives publicly, they also appear sensitive to the commentary and opinions that inevitably arise. This begs the question, if they prefer privacy, why make such personal details public in the first place? It seems contradictory to invite public discussion and then react negatively to the ensuing conversations. Some, like Rob Schneider, see this as hypocrisy. He criticizes Will Smith's behavior, suggesting that his overreaction at the Oscars stems from a deeper insecurity related to his personal life being public fodder. Schneider argues that Smith's actions were unacceptable and that the Academy's lenient response was influenced by political correctness and fear of being perceived as racist. He believes that if an ordinary person had behaved similarly, they would have faced immediate and severe consequences.
Will is a douchebag, and that's something that you can't. The thing is, that's how politically correct the Academy is.
Right.
That they were so cowardly. Because if I would have done that, they would have been hauled out to prison. Because they were so worried about being, racist or whatever. They were like, we can't be. The point is, violence is what it is, and what the color of your skin or your religion doesn't matter.
Sure.
If you commit a crime in front of other people, you get hauled out of there.
Schneider emphasizes that violence is wrong, regardless of race, religion, or any other personal characteristic. He believes that committing an assault in public should result in immediate removal and potential legal repercussions, regardless of the perpetrator's status or the perceived provocation. He contends that the Academy's hesitancy to act decisively reinforced a double standard and sent the wrong message about accountability. Schneider acknowledges that some might have initially viewed Smith's actions as defending his wife. However, he firmly asserts that regardless of the motivation, physical violence is never justified. It doesn't matter, he states. You can't hit another dude. He reiterates that Rock's joke was mild and that Smith's reaction was excessive and unacceptable. The fact that Jada Pinkett Smith was present at the ceremony, Schneider suggests, further underscores the inappropriateness of Smith's violent outburst. Rock's joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head, referencing the movie G.I. Jane, was arguably harmless. It might not have been the funniest joke ever, but it wasn't mean-spirited or intentionally hurtful. Will Smith, having started his career as a comedian, should understand the difference between words and actions in comedy. A witty comeback or roast would have been a more mature response than resorting to violence. Schneider suggests listening to Jim Carrey's take on the situation, which he believes accurately highlights the severity of Smith's actions. Ultimately, Smith's slap wasn't just an assault. It was an ego-driven act that overshadowed the entire Oscars ceremony.
Cast a pall over everybody's shining moment last night. A lot of people worked really hard to get to that place and to have their moment in the sun and to get their award for the really hard work they did. And it is no mean feat to go through all the stuff you have to go through when you're nominated for an Oscar. It's a gauntlet of devotion that you have to do. And It was just a selfish moment that cast a pall over the whole thing.
He stole the spotlight from the deserving winners, turning the night into the Will Smith Show. Instead of celebrating achievements in filmmaking, the headlines focused on the slap, eclipsing other important moments like Ariana DeBose's historic win and Questlove's well-deserved award. The incident turned a prestigious event into a meme-worthy fiasco. One of the things that really bothered Rob Schneider was how some people tried to spin Will Smith's actions as heroic. They painted him as a knight in shining armor defending his wife's honor. Schneider completely disagrees with this interpretation. He sees the slap not as an act of heroism, but as a messed-up display of machismo and ego. He thinks Smith was trying to prove his manhood in a really unhealthy way. Schneider points to the fact that Jada Pinkett Smith had publicly admitted to cheating on Will Smith. This, Schneider believes, was a huge blow to Smith's ego and made him feel emasculated. The slap, in Schneider's view, was a way for Smith to try and reclaim his masculinity and show everyone he was still in charge. He was trying to look tough and powerful after being publicly humiliated by his wife's infidelity. Many think Smith used violence as a way to cover up his hurt feelings and project an image of strength. He sees it as a desperate attempt to regain control and prove his masculinity to the world. Instead of dealing with his emotions in a healthy way, Smith lashed out, trying to reclaim his image as a strong man. This, according to Schneider, is not heroic, it's toxic and misguided. It's using violence to mask insecurity and project a false sense of power. In contrast to Smith's outburst, Chris Rock's response to the slap was remarkably composed. Despite being publicly humiliated and assaulted on live television, Rock chose not to escalate the situation. He maintained his composure, made a brief comment acknowledging the unprecedented nature of the event, and continued with the ceremony. This restraint, in the face of such a public and personal affront, speaks volumes about Rock's character and professionalism. He could have easily pressed charges, engaged in a public feud, or used the incident to garner sympathy and attention. Instead, he chose to take the high road, diffusing the tension and allowing the focus to return, as much as possible, to the purpose of the evening. This dignified response further underscores the inappropriateness of Smith's actions and highlights Rock's grace under pressure. While Chris Rock initially remained relatively silent about the slap, he later addressed the incident in a comedy routine. This, however, shouldn't be interpreted as a sign of weakness or an invitation for Smith's behavior. Comedians often process difficult experiences through humor, and Rock's decision to incorporate the slap into his act was a way for him to reclaim the narrative and find some comedic catharsis. Furthermore, given the very public nature of the assault, Rock had every right to address it on his own terms. Smith's actions opened the door for public commentary, and Rock's comedic response was a measured and appropriate way to express his perspective and move forward. It was not an act of aggression, but rather an exercise of his right to free speech and artistic expression. In short, while Smith may not have liked it, he certainly invited the comedic repercussions. So, what do you think? Comment down below and let us know. If you like this video, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be the first to see my next video. I post updates like this every week where I uncover the secrets of your favorite celebrities.